wholesome milk.
I like milk for all the good, healthy things that are in it.
Mankind's most nearly perfect food.
Good, fresh, healthy milk.
The year is 1981. Raiders of the Lost Ark is the #1 movie, and everyone is wearing leg warmers. You've got this former actor turned politician who's now the president, and he loves free markets, and he has a big problem. It wasn't the national debt or some big foreign policy issue, though he had plenty of those. His problem was too much cheese. The government was sitting on this giant stockpile of processed cheese that was in some cave in Kansas, hundreds of millions of pounds, and it was starting to turn kind of gross.
We've got 60 million of these. We can't find a market for it.
There was so much cheese that one official said that the best thing to do would be to dump it in the ocean. So Reagan decides to give it away for free to America's poor. The cheese was to come out of the caves and into the American welfare system.
The great cheese giveaway began today in California. Needy people lined up to get the surplus cheese.
As the cheese flowed to the underserved, it became a symbol of the welfare experience, and soon government cheese was cropping up in movies and hip-hop lyrics by artists who grew up on the stuff.
After that government cheese, we eating steak.
Like powdered milk and government cheese.
The morning with some government cheese.
What else is a thug to do when you eat cheese from the government?
By the way, I'm not allowed to actually play much of those songs because there's like a copyright infringement if I do, and even though it's fair use, they probably will flag me and I won't make any money off this video. So we left a giant playlist of all the government cheese songs in the sources. Sorry. Okay, but how did we end up with a surplus of literal caves full of highly processed cheese in the first place? And while we're at it, why did I drink so much milk as a kid? Like, why were there like 5 of these in my refrigerator at all times? My mom would give me a big glass of milk in the morning, and then I would go to school and be served a carton of this stuff, while also reading the best-selling kids novel at the time, which was about a girl's face on a milk carton. And then I would get home and my mom would give me more milk for dinner. And along with this milk, I was served a message about calcium, about how milk was vital for strong bones.
Milk, the best bone building food for all ages.
Bone building calcium.
That makes a quart a day.
I always drink plenty of milk.
Turns out that my mom and school did this because they were lied to for a very long time. And that's what this video is about. The story of milk in this country shows us how far the government will go to protect certain industries, even at the expense of telling Americans the truth about what they're eating. It's a lie that gave us billboards of Austin Powers and Stone Cold Steve Austin with crusty milk mustaches. Ugh. So let me show you how we, at least in America, got brainwashed by milk.
It's the only milk I drink. An important food for the health of the nation.
I'll take a milk.
Okay, so before we get into this baby, I need to thank today's sponsor, which is one I actually use and I'm excited about, Copilot. Copilot's a platform that is designed to make you more consistent with your workout. There's so much focus on fitness being about like getting strong and being faster or whatever. For me, it's just like, I just need to move my body every day so I'm not sad. It's an app that goes on your phone and your watch if you want, and it pairs you up with a coach that you actually speak to, and you tell them what you want to do, how rigorous you want to be, what kinds of things you want to work on, whether or not you have access to weights or a gym. So I met with a coach, Devin. We had this conversation about what I want to work on. And then he loaded up like a personalized training plan for me that I could start using the next day. It's like frictionless, like the technology user experience is really nice. Like you just go through every one of your workouts. There's a visual for every single one of them. And then at the end of your workout, you can give feedback to your trainer. This human element of having a person that is there and that you're accountable to, that's gonna check in with you, changes everything. It actually makes you feel like, oh, there's someone who cares about this. For accountability, that is really, really important. So I love the human element. It's not just like an automated robot. It's actually like a real person who's coaching you and guiding you. Copilot found that their clients are 9 times more likely to stick with their goals because of the way this platform works. And I'm not surprised. It's literally meant for accountability and facilitating a frictionless experience with moving your body. It's not about getting buff. It's about just being consistent. Though you can get buff too in the process. There's a link in my description. It is go.mycopilot.com/Johnny Harris. If you click that link, you get a free trial with your own expert fitness and health coach. You can see if it works in helping you move your body. And if you're anything like me, that is vital for a happy life. Thank you, Copilot, for supporting this video. Let's dive in to milk. I'm not anti-milk. I love milk. Milk, in fact, is pretty magical. Think about it. Milk is the first thing that we drink when we're born. It literally keeps us alive. And if you want to talk about evolution and human civilization, like, milk was a huge part of this. We started domesticating animals and realized that the fatty, nutritious milk meant for this baby could also be used for these babies. But human bodies weren't able to digest milk after childhood. They didn't have the enzymes to do so, especially another animal's milk. But the beautiful thing about human bodies is they can change. Over time, milk became a key source of sustenance for people living in certain parts of the world, like Northern Europe. They relied on their animals during cold, harsh winters. They couldn't grow crops. Same with the nomadic people in like the Sahara who relied on milk during hot summers. And doing this for a few thousand years, their genes actually changed. Suddenly, they had enzymes that could help break down and digest milk. Like, they forced evolution to make them tolerant to milk. Good for them. And that is why this map exists. There's some weakness to the methodology on how this map was made, but it captures a true point here, which is that everyone around the world digests milk differently. Like, the bluer your country is in this map, the more people can digest milk. So yeah, you've got Northern Europe with like 80 or 90% of the population being able to digest lactose. And because of those nomadic tribes that got used to drinking milk, that's why Niger is blue here. Meanwhile, in places like Asia, most bodies drink milk and they're like, dude, WTF, why are you putting baby food in my adult body? We don't digest this after the age of 6. Get it out of here. Humans would find a way around this by taking the digestive enzyme from a cow's belly, called rennet, and mixing it with milk. This would start the breaking down of the milk. And then they could put it in caves and let it ferment, and soon you're storing your milk. And you're also making it kind of delicious. This is the birth of stuff like cheese and yogurt. We also turned milk into things like butter, which would last longer and is undeniably one of the most delicious things that has ever been invented by humans. But raw milk, the stuff right out of the cow's udder, wasn't consumed by anyone besides like kids. And frankly, that wasn't the safest thing to do, because milk goes bad really quickly. When it sits around, it becomes a cozy feeding ground for microorganisms, which again was great for making cheese, but kids drinking this stuff was kind of risky. That all changed when this guy found a way to heat up milk and kill off all the dangerous pathogens. It made it way safer and way easier to extend the shelf life. He called it pasteurization, which was named after the guy's last name. Like, am I the only one who thought that pasteurization came from like the cow's pasture? But it was actually just a French guy's last name? No one else thought that. I'm literally the only one who... Okay, cool. So, despite all of these problems, milk ekes by from being canceled thanks to pasteurization, and now kids can keep drinking it. Okay, the evolution and digestion part of this video is now over. Let's get to the economics and the government policy, and now it's the United States in the 1900s, and technology has given humans new food options. Like margarine, which threatened to compete with butter. Dairy companies realized that they needed to defend their product. They needed to prove that butter was better. So they start doing science. This is the era of dairy science. It gets pretty juicy. Like this study that shows that when they gave dairy to rats, they actually grew stronger and larger. And it must be because of a vitamin inside of the milk, a new concept. Let's call it vitamin A. A because it's the first vitamin we discovered. So yes, this is where vitamins came from. Like, we didn't have vitamins before 1912. And so now dairy companies are loving it. They have a scientific paper that says that milk corrects dietary deficiencies. And quote, and this is a little aggressive, is the greatest factor for the protection of mankind. That doesn't sound sensational or biased in any way. It sounds very scientific. The greatest factor for the protection of mankind. Dairy companies aren't going to be asleep at the wheel while other forms of nutrition and fat try to displace them. So they form a cooperation, a council, the National Dairy Council, that promotes all things dairy. And they start to build a strong message to the American people that dairy isn't just a nice to have, it is scientifically proven to be vital for your health. But like, let's keep some perspective here. Animal milk went from being something that humans couldn't have beyond the age of 6 to something that some of us developed a gene to be able to digest, to then something that was like a hotbed for pathogens, and we solved that with pasteurization. But now, in the early 1900s in the United States, milk was a magical, perfect white drink that could cure all things. All of this was happening right in time for a moment that would change everything, both for the world, but also for milk's place in it.
It is not an army we must shape for war, it is a nation.
During World War I, the soldiers were struggling. They were sick, they were malnourished, but lucky for them, the United States was ready with a perfect product to improve their health.
Milk? We need more milk. Never enough milk to go around.
We were now able to condense milk into a powder form. Now it could last for years on a shelf without refrigeration. This really helped milk level up. Now the magic drink was a magic powder that could help our men in uniform fight the bad guys. Milk was now associated with patriotism and freedom and liberty and America. Man, if you want a way to like make your product popular and famous, just tie it with like America. So now with their big new customer, the United States government, farmers fully shifted their businesses to dairy. They needed to meet this demand. But the war ended, the men in uniform came home, and these farmers were left with a massive oversupply of dairy. The government doesn't want to hurt the big patriotic dairy industry. So instead of telling dairy farmers to like go back to producing less, they convince people to drink more.
Rich in all the protein, minerals, and B vitamins of whole milk.
And here's where we really start to see this vital web of relationships between dairy farmers, the United States government via the Department of Agriculture, scientists, and advertisers. It is a web of relationship that cements milk's place in our culture. It is the reason why in the 90s I was drinking like 5 cups of milk a day. Milk becomes an advertiser's dream, a magic white liquid that is scientifically proven to be the key to our children's health and development. And this message had a very strong ally at the US Department of Agriculture, who teams up with the dairy industry. So it's like after World War I and the USDA gets involved with these campaigns. The reason I want to show you this stuff from like the 20s isn't because I want to give you a history lesson. It's because I want to show you how the US Department of Agriculture behaved, how it supported the dairy industry, how it kind of pushed a lot of propaganda. Because when you see it here in the 20s, 100 years ago, you'll see the version of today, which I'll show you in a moment, and you'll see those connections. And you'll be like, wow, not much has changed, and it will kind of blow your mind. A little foreshadow. Anyway, look at this thing. So we have this education milk for health campaign. This is effectively the government telling the people what they deem as the healthy thing for everyone. There were milk songs and plays and posters and this terrifying clown that told you to brush your teeth and drink your milk. By 1937, kids are supposed to be drinking 1 quart of milk a day. Luckily, from the video I made about the metric system, we've got measuring vessels around here. Okay, it is 1937 and the US government wants our children to drink how much milk? Oh my God, no! I have children, and if I ever gave them this much milk, I'd feel like a criminal. And here's the USDA doing studies to scientifically prove that this is legit. It's not just advertisers. Look, the government is doing studies and publishing things. And now they are weighing children and measuring them to show that after this big milk campaign, the kids are taller and weigh more. And here they are with a bottle of milk and 2 graham crackers for lunch. Like, it truly is becoming the substance for children. And I mean, look at this. The smoking gun proof of it all. One of these rats had milk and the other didn't. These rats are the same age and each of them have the same feet except for milk. Milk builds a strong and healthy body. Okay, but this isn't just advertising. This is like real science, right? It's like South Dakota State College, which is a real college, and the US Department of Agriculture cooperating, 2 authoritative institutions. Right? Well, like any science that is being done, you have to look at the interests here. It turns out that the people doing this science at South Dakota State College were receiving a bunch of money from the state legislature because South Dakota is a big dairy industry. So they fund this dairy science program, and suddenly all of these really positive dairy studies are coming out. That, again, the USDA, who wants to protect its rural farmers, is helping support as well. Positive science means more dairy sales, which means supporting local rural economies, which means supporting America, which is so depressing to me. Yeah, I know this was like in the 20s and 30s, but like this same thing happens today. Science that is funded by certain industries with a certain agenda And it just sort of muddies everything. Okay, but what about the economy? What happens when the Great Depression comes and now Americans can't really afford milk? Usually this would hit the dairy industry and they would have to scale down because now the demand for milk is way lower. But farmers weren't gonna let this happen. They were becoming like royalty. And so they respond by going on strike, dumping a bunch of milk into the streets to artificially limit supply and drive the price back up. And to be like, F you government, where are you at? So to fix this, milk's new loyal ally, the US government, steps in and passes a law that says that if the price of milk dips below the cost that it takes to produce it, instead of free market economics, where the dairy farmers would just make less of it, the government would step in and cover the cost difference. Let them keep making their milk. And now the government is really messing with the invisible hand, the market that helps supply and demand link up with each other at the right price. Once you start doing that, it's really hard to go back. So then add in another world war where even more farmers got into the milk game for him. And by the 50s, milk is cemented into the American psyche through years of creative storytelling, shaky scientific messaging, war, and a government who is more and more influenced by dairy farmers. The pattern repeats itself in the 70s. The economy is tanking, dairy farmers are struggling again, and who's here to save them? Jimmy Carter.
There's a dream of a country wide and bountiful.
Jimmy did what American leaders before him did. He bowed down before the massive dairy lobby and bailed out farmers once again.
I am in favor of giving farmers an equal break.
This time in the form of $2 billion going into the dairy industry to guarantee them high prices. And, crucially for our story, to buy the extra milk that nobody wanted. Suddenly, farmers who were broke had loads of cash, and they were incentivized to produce as much milk as possible because they knew the government would buy it from them. Okay, but wait, what is the government doing with all this milk? Milk spoils really fast. Okay, says Jimmy Carter and company, instead of buying the milk itself, let's also buy a bunch of stuff that uses milk. Stuff that could be stored and forgotten about, like butter and powder and cheese. So the dairy farmers kept producing tons of milk and cheese, and the government at one point was buying a quarter of all cheddar cheese in America. But unsurprisingly, when your big customer is the US government who is buying your cheese cause America, you're not gonna actually make a great product. One woman who grew up on this stuff wrote about it in an essay and described it as like poor man's Velveeta.
Government cheese make the best grilled cheese you'd have never had in your life.
And this is really sad to me because dairy can be really cool. Like I see France with a tradition of like brie and like camembert, and like Holland has Gouda. And we've got this, American cheese. Pasteurized processed cheese, which is kind of more like a cheese-like substance and isn't a product of like culture and like refining a craft. It's a product of modern industrial policies meant to protect farmers. And it's what helped the United States cement its place as the home of some of the worst cheese in the world.
Where do you buy government cheese?
You got to be on their special mailing list.
Government cheese is also the special ingredient.
So this is how we ended up with a surplus of horrible cheese sitting in limestone caves in Kansas. By the 70s, there was 200 million pounds of extra cheese and other dairy products sitting here. And this is why the government started giving it away to food banks and to America's poor, the underserved that wouldn't be buying this cheese in the first place, so they weren't throwing off the other customers and driving the price down. That's partly because Americans on welfare were disproportionately non-white, African, Asian, or Native American descendants, meaning they're way more likely to be lactose intolerant. See the section above about evolution and the milk gene and stuff? This cheese also flowed to schools and prisons. And now we're in the 90s, my childhood, where I'm drinking a lot of milk every day. And this is where the whole government advertising science thing gets a lot worse, in my opinion.
My mom just always instilled in me, drink your milk.
Drinking milk is awesome, as having 3 glasses of milk a day helped us to really stay lean and fit.
The thing about the government getting involved in setting the prices for stuff is that once you start, it's really hard to go back. For some markets, that's okay, like insurance and electricity utilities, the government should be involved. But milk? Like, it's just a thing that people can choose to buy or not. Like, it should be left to the invisible hand to decide how much people actually want, how much they're willing to pay, and therefore how much firms should produce. But instead, the US government had created a totally distorted market with a bunch of fake demand, and in the process incentivizing farmers to make tons of milk that nobody wanted. And the problem is with these policies is the surplus was just getting bigger and bigger. At one point, the government literally had to start paying dairy farmers to stop producing milk, to slaughter their herds. But even that wasn't working. So what's the next solution? Well, they tried what they did in the 20s. Instead of getting the farmers to produce less, let's convince the people to drink more. So we pass a law that allows all the dairy farmers to pitch into this big fund that they can use for advertising and research, which are kind of becoming the same thing. And the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, becomes like the referee to make sure that like they're not like doing any false advertising. And this is where we get campaigns like this.
Milk, it does a body good.
And
America's favorite health kick, milk.
And in the 90s, the unforgettable Got Milk campaign.
Who shot Alexander Hamilton?
Got milk.
The people who coordinated this were freaking brilliant. They turned Got Milk into like a cool thing that every celebrity wanted to be a part of. To the point where they're taking like way cheaper rates for these campaigns just because it was like the cool thing to do. This is how you get this huge variety of different celebrities all appearing in magazines and ads for milk. Not a particular brand of milk, just milk.
Well, Mr. Miller told me he never drinks milk.
And these cool celebrities are telling us a story that milk builds strong bones. It has calcium and other essential nutrients. And that it even helps you lose weight.
Milk your diet, lose weight.
Meanwhile, they're funding all of these studies that are validating their claims. And the USDA standing by, just letting it all happen. So this is why in the 90s, my mom had like a bunch of these in her refrigerator. And I can't blame her. Like, what are you gonna do? The government authority on nutrition is telling you that you should be drinking milk. You're seeing it on all these billboards and magazines. You have real studies talking about calcium and bone health. This really embedded itself. But if there's anything we've learned is that no matter how much these forces push milk on us, people don't actually want to drink as much milk anymore. Milk demand, even during the Got Milk years, started going down, but the dairy lobby wasn't going to let up. They weren't going to take the hint from the market. So they started finding other ways to get us to drink milk. Instead of drinking it, we could eat it.
Rust first.
So the modern version of this is the dairy lobby looking at fast food restaurants, partnering with them to give us all kinds of cheesy things. You can't see it, but in all of these cheesy advertisements, the dairy lobby is there, lobbying and pushing to get more and more cheese in these products. The dairy industry literally has its own like marketing agency called Dairy Management, whose goal it is to make this happen. They partner with fast food chains and they give us stuff like Pizza Hut's 3-cheese stuffed crust pizza and the Summer of Cheese campaign, or personal favorite, Taco Bell's steak quesadilla that has cheddar, pepper jack, mozzarella, and cheese sauce that increased dairy sales by 4%. This one product. That's because it uses 8 times more cheese than any other product on the menu. 8 times more cheese.
A tasty triumph of culinary engineering. Bite into the new steak quesadilla today.
Or Domino's, who has a cheese pizza that has 40% more cheese on it. It generates $177 million of sales. And the input for all this cheese? 1 billion additional pounds of milk. But of course, we gotta hit the schools. The schools are a fantastic place to sell dairy to. So Domino's now gets pizza into 2,000 schools nationwide. And we've got emails. Here's an email between Pizza Hut and the Dairy Lobby's marketing agency. And they're talking about how to sell more pizza and more cheese. I mean, it's brilliant. If you're a marketing person, which is these people are advertisers, they're like, people aren't drinking milk as much. Let's just pile it onto freaking stuffed crust and cheese pizzas around America. Oh, and by the way, these people sign their names as Lord of Cheese and Lady of Cheese. These people are serious about dairy. The point I'm making here is these people aren't nutritionists. Like, they are not concerned with anything other than selling more dairy. The former CEO of this dairy marketing company is like, if every pizza included 1 more ounce of cheese, we would sell an additional 250 million pounds of cheese annually. Just 1 more pound down Americans' throats. I mean, again, I don't blame these people. They're freaking advertisers. They literally only care about selling stuff. What concerns me is that they're doing this with the blessing of a government agency who I pay taxes to. It is a powerful, all-seeing health agency that dictates our nutritional guidelines. And yet they stand by and support these campaigns for all of these products that have such excessive amounts of dairy in them. Wait, so why does this happen? Why is the USDA like on the side of dairy farmers? On their website, it says that their job is to promote stuff that will, quote, better nourish Americans. They put out things like the food pyramid, and they're supposed to be a source of objective information about what we should eat. But wait, look at this. In the same page on their mission, they also say that they are supposed to, quote, help rural America thrive and to promote agricultural production. Help Americans know how to nourish themselves and promote rural America. Which one of those things is more important to them? I mean, the answer to that is clear. Look at the nutritional guidelines that they put out to be like, here's what you should eat. And look at who advises them on this. Yeah, there's like some like experts and doctors from universities, but there's also like executives from companies like Dannon, a yogurt company, and a bunch of other dairy people who have no other interest than making money. And yet they're like in the same room as the people who are deciding what Americans should eat. Like, no, that's not how it works. Dairy has been shoehorned into so much of the messaging from our government to us over the years that, again, of course my mom's gonna be like, yeah, you gotta drink milk. The government is telling us that this is good. So yeah, the dairy industry is so deeply embedded in our federal government, it's really hard to turn it back. This unnatural false demand that we have in our country for dairy is really hard to like rewind. And the amount of money that flows to influential lawmakers to keep this whole thing going, you can't really cut it off. But some of you are thinking, like, we're not talking about cigarettes. Like, this is milk. It's not a bad thing. Like, calcium is good for your bones, right? No. I mean, yes, but no. Yes, calcium's good for your bones. Milk has things that help you, but like, you can get all of that stuff from other places. There's nothing special about this white substance unless you're like a farmer in Sweden in 1532 and it's winter and you can't have crops. Like, with less than a cup of almonds, you get that much calcium. Dried figs, some cooked kale, even tofu, which comes from soybeans. You can get this stuff from a bunch of different foods. And a reminder that 5 billion people, more than half the world, don't drink milk. Like, they're fine. And there are even studies now showing that too much milk can actually be bad for your bones. So no, despite all the industry-funded studies that tell us that milk is the magic elixir and all of the creative storytelling that's embedded in our psyche, this is not some magic substance. This is a thing that was meant for cow babies. But the fact remains that I still consume a lot of dairy. That's because milk is a magical, beautiful thing. It's delicious. It has a deep history for so many cultures around the world. And even here in the United States, there are a bunch of dairy farmers who are small, respectable, family-owned farms who have been doing this for a really long time, making really amazing products that go to actually meet a real demand for people who actually want to eat delicious cheese or milk or whatever. I'm not saying let's get rid of it. Dairy is freaking delicious, but the dairy industry we have does not celebrate that. It does not create a market around beautiful products and things that people want. It is a fake market that has been pushed to us through real lies, through this idea that milk is essential with things that you can't get anywhere else. A century of the most clever marketing. I guess what I feel here is like a little bit disillusioned that the government agencies that we pay our taxes to give us objective advice and guidance can sometimes lead us astray, be so deeply under the influences of corporations and old legacy industries in our country that they end up protecting them more than they protect us. That is disappointing to me. Thanks for watching. Thanks again to Copilot for sponsoring the video. That link in the description helps support this channel and also get you a free trial with your own expert fitness and health coach. And thank you all for watching a video about milk. Do I do food things now? Is that one of my beats? Is like food, Doritos, and breakfast? And yeah, I guess it is. I'm a food guy. We're off to a new year, and we are making a lot of cool things, and I am really grateful for all of you being here. I'm grateful for those over at the newsroom who are supporting. It's our Patreon, where you get an extra video every month, access to my scripts, access to Tom Fox royalty-free music that you can use in your own videos, and you are supporting our operation here as we try to make good journalism on the internet. We also have LUTs and presets, which we sell so you can color your videos and photos. I'm publishing all of my videos a week early over on Nebula, because that's a thing that we do now. See the link in the description for that. And generally, we're just being curious about the world and trying to make cool stories. So thank you all for being here and for your comments and your thoughts and your feedback. It is very, very helpful. And I will see you soon in the next video. Bye, everyone.